Hi, everyone in the higher health community. I'm joined here with Dr. Keara Taylor, and
Hi.
we wanted to highlight further the advanced hormone testing we do at Higher Health. So to start with, this pathway that we are showing on the screen is your hormone pathway. And it's really interesting to see that it all starts with cholesterol. Cholesterol, with the help of this enzyme, moves into pregnenolone. Pregnenolone then splits off into two areas, progesterone and DHEA. Progesterone, I love educating about this, that progesterone goes down to cortisol. So progesterone has a role to play in our cortisol production, and DHEA goes down our androgen pathway to testosterone. And did you know that estrogen actually comes from testosterone? I think is really important to note. So this is your whole hormone pathway, and I liken this to a bed sheet, as I've spoken about many times. So you want your bed sheet to be nice and rounded across all corners of your bed. When one corner flips up, so let's say you get deficient in cortisol, that's the corner flipping up, that is going to have a whole ripple effect to the rest of the bed sheet. So our job as naturopathic doctors is to smooth out your bed sheet, make sure all corners are rounded and secure, and that you're going to have a great night's sleep. And this is the simple hormone pathway. We are going to show a more complex one from the test, one of our favorite tests. And so, Keara, can you highlight for us the 3 hormone tests we might consider at Higher Health?
Yeah, exactly. So there's 3 main ways to test our hormones. And the first one would be a serum test. So that's just like a blood draw that you would get at like a Life Labs or something like that. There is a saliva test. So this would be like a take-home kit where you would spit into a tube, and that's going to tell us about your hormones. And then the third one would be a urine metabolite test, which is exactly this one that we're talking about today.
And when would we choose one or the over the other?
Yeah, so each one, it's really interesting because there's going to be certain circumstances where you probably are definitely going to pick one over the other. So if we're thinking specifically about our serum test, so that's like a blood draw, there are certain hormones that we can only test in the serum. So that would be things like our thyroid hormone, also the hormones in our brain that kind of start that whole like hormonal cascade. So things like FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, those start up in the brain. And so we can only do those ones via serum. So depending on like how a patient is presenting and what symptoms they have, we maybe want to start with a serum test to see what's going on there. Like if we see a lot of hormonal imbalance and we want to know, is it starting at the brain or is it like an ovarian issue? We may start there, depending. And then with the urine test that we're going to go dive deeper into today, because it provides so much information. With that one, we're getting all of the different metabolites of all of those hormones. So it's just going to provide us with a really comprehensive idea of what's going on with someone's hormones. And it's going to tell us about all of them. So like the androgens, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol. So we'll go into all of that. But I think that it's it will be on a case-by-case basis. So sometimes it's just depending on how a patient's presenting, what and where we can get the best information. With the saliva one, I will say there is a cool test where you can kind of do the test every other day and then like map out a whole month of hormones. So sometimes we'll choose that for that situation. But with the urine test, we do get such a comprehensive overlook of the hormones.
I love what you said about the key difference for blood-based over this urine test, the CHI, is thyroid, LH, and FSH. So particularly when we're interested in those markers, the blood would be better. And then the CHI, so this test here on screen, stands for Comprehensive Hormone Insights. And so this would be more recommended, I guess, when we want to look at estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol. And then there's a few other markers that this test does, which we'll get into, that both Dr. Keara and I really love. So the Comprehensive Hormone Insight Test, you can see it's 29 pages, this report here. And so it's very comprehensive. And just to show you a snapshot of the type of information you'll get, sorry that my video is going off here. We'll go right down to the page 1 of this person's results. I think it's Doctor Who or Jane Who. So we have there's dials of each of the main hormones. So androgens, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, and these are some of our favorite markers for this test. So my personal favorite is this oxidative stress marker. And so we are living in a toxic world. We are exposed to so many oxidants, and we want to make sure those oxidants aren't causing cellular damage within our body. And so this person is showing a very high oxidative stress level, which gives us a lot of information as naturopathic doctors for where we would want to go in the person's treatment plan. We also see in here that this person is over making DHEA, and they're actually quite good for their androgens, progesterone, and estrogen. But one thing that we see quite often is very low progesterone or very low estrogen or very high testosterone, or even very high progesterone. And all of those will give us indicators for what we need to do in a person's treatment plan. So Keara, what is one of your favorite markers in this test?
Yeah, that's a tough question because there's so many goodies on here. I think a really cool marker is the melatonin one, because that's one that people probably aren't familiar with testing much. And melatonin, so first of all, obviously a huge complaint that we both hear all the time is someone who has trouble sleeping. So this will give us an indication if it's really if they have really low melatonin, then we'll kind of know that melatonin is probably going to help them. But maybe if that's already really high, then taking melatonin isn't going to help. And, there's other things that we can do. Melatonin is also, I think we both love talking about the circadian rhythm as well, and how that impacts all of our hormones. And melatonin is one of the main hormones, along with cortisol in the morning, melatonin in the evening. So getting an idea of how, I think this can give us an idea of how our body's working from a circadian rhythm and overall balance perspective. So yeah, I think that melatonin. Yeah. So I think that that's a really cool marker that we wouldn't really know, we wouldn't ever know unless we did this test.
Yeah. And so in line with that simplified hormone pathway that I showed, this would be the complex version. So it's a little overwhelming, even for us as naturopathic doctors, but we have become familiar with this reporting method, and we really love talking about this. So it's called the hormone heat map. And the warmer the color, the more you have of that hormone, and the cooler the color, so down to gray, the less you have of it. So when we take an inventory of your results, we're looking at your heat map and to know which areas we're going to dive into. Before we talk about some symptoms to look for, one further marker I just want to highlight is the methylation component, which we talk a lot about in today's modern world, where we need to keep detoxing the environment. And if we're not able to do that, we're going to have a jamming up of the pathways if we can't detox properly. And so let me just get to this page to show you the marker, or have I already passed it? Oh my gosh, sorry. Estrogen page. Did I pass it?
I don't think so. It's a very long test.
Yeah. Okay, you're getting a good overview here of this test. I think I did pass it. It's got to be.
Yeah, because it's going to show you that full picture, and then it's going to go into, as Dr. Campbell's kind of going down, it's going to go more specifically into the androgens and then estrogens and then progesterone. So that's what we're kind of flipping through here.
Here we go. Perfect. Thank you for that interlude.
There it is.
Okay. Yeah. So this is your methylation measure. And so on this person's test result, they're a very high methylator. When we see low methylation and high oxidative stress, that gives us so much valuable information for your best health. It's important to address that. So because if you are a low methylator, it is harder for you to clear oxidants and to quench them. So the first step we want to do is improve your methylation so that we can bring down your oxidative stress. And so just to highlight what we've spoken about in terms of what the Chi test will tell us, it tells us all the main hormones and then all the metabolites of those hormones, so we can really tell what's going on in your pathway. If you're too low in one and the downstream metabolites are affected, then it just tells us where to go. In addition to the hormones, it tells us your methylation, your oxidative stress, and your melatonin. And one other marker that this tests or tells us that no other test does is pregnenolone, which really is the top of the food chain for hormone production.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're low in pregnenolone, there's going to be a whole cascade of effects downstream. So
Yeah.
Keara, what are some of the symptoms we see or hear about all the time that would lead us to do this test?
Man, okay, there's so many, and that's because we know that hormones affect like everything about us, so as women. So you know, I think a lot of the ones that we see are, you know, those symptoms that happen kind of around your period. So just maybe moodiness, maybe more anxiety, fatigue, you could have breast tenderness, cramping, bloating, like all of those kinds of symptoms. Even just overall from like an energy perspective, if someone's really experiencing like difficulty with their energy, trouble sleeping, skin health as well. So if you're noticing a lot of breakouts, even things like recurrent vaginal infections and things like that. So there's really, like there's really just so many, like I said, like our hormones kind of contribute to everything in our body. So there's going to be, so kind of, you know, there's such a range of symptoms that would really lead us to think about this test.
So basically every woman can benefit from this, and also men. So I'm getting my partner.
Living world.
Yeah, I'm getting him to do this test, and we will review that on a video. And another thing we hear a lot about is weight concerns.
Oh, of course.
So, and there's certain weight concerns where it's just clear that there's a hormone piece to it, and you'll know if that's you. And so sleep, weight, energy, any type of hormone symptom, ask us if this test is right for you, or if you would be better to do blood-based for the thyroid or LH and FSH. We'd really
and I think
hear from you. This is one of our favorite tests and our favorite topic, hormone health, and it's just even more important right now as a lot of mood-based concerns, irritability, changes in routines are occurring, which are having an effect on our hormones. So ask us your questions in the comments below, and healthy hormones for higher health.
Yeah.